How do everybody? So I've got that story that I was going to do yesterday up until I found that Iraq story, which was pretty shocking, if you ask me. But which is why I did that one first, as I felt that was far more important. But this one, it's going to be a bit more fun, but it also does underlie some more serious context behind it, which we'll discuss as we get through it. We'll get into the story. You're probably going to know where this is going pretty quickly from when I read the headline. Let's have a good laugh and see what we can learn from it. Ivy League students offered crayons, Legos and cookies with milk to cope with Trump's election win. Yes, people, I have read that correctly. We are seeing the so-called intellectual elite of our youth not being able to cope with not getting their own way. I guess that is the consequence of everybody getting first place at school from now on. So Harvard University of Pennsylvania gives students the day off. Princeton professor emails students to postpone exams, and the Georgetown University builds self-care suite for stressed students. Isn't it strange how these people are getting a day off from their exams and those are getting postponed because they feel stressed about Donald Trump winning the election of the presidency? Yet when young ladies are being forced to be exposed to men with serious mental illnesses coming into their private spaces, such as women's changing rooms or bathrooms, those women have to endure that. And no matter how stressful that gets, if they ever mention that, they're a bigot and a transphobe and a homophobe and everything else. But yet this is when somebody doesn't get an election win that they want, oh, they can have the time off, can't they? It is absolutely infuriating and shows the double standards that is happening within the university sector and just how poisoned the higher education system is at this point. Now, is it beyond redemption and beyond being able to be saved? Who knows? Time will tell. But I think some of them are far beyond being able to be repaired, and probably it's better to get shut down or at least have all the funding pulled from them. Right, let's get on with this story. Ivy League schools across the US cancelled classes, postponed exams and told students they could colour in with crayons and offered milk and cookies to cope with Donald Trump's resounding victory in the presidential election. These people sound like they've got the coping strategies of a 5-year-old. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind doing a little bit of painting or something like that. But I tell you what, if I was having a meltdown over something, I wouldn't need cookies and milk and doing painting to make myself feel better. You know, maybe going to the gym and start hitting a heavy bag, possibly. You know, that's a little bit different though. I mean, talk about the infantilization of adults, and these people are supposed to be the future leaders of our countries. These people are going to go on to become managers and bosses and officers in the military and who knows what, and they can't cope with losing an election. Absolutely insane. These people are beyond redemption, in my opinion. They probably shouldn't even be at university if they can't cope with that. How can you expect them to cope with the stresses of study in higher education and meeting deadlines and exams if they can't even cope with not getting the person into power that they want? So, Harvard University and the University of Pennsylvania, which is Donald Trump's alma mater, told students they could take the day off. Insane. At Harvard, classes ranging from applied math to the study of ancient Greek heroes were called applied maths. How can mathematicians need time off? Like, seriously, if you're doing maths and you can't cope with not winning an election and getting your own way, I'm afraid you shouldn't be at university. I don't care how gifted you are at putting numbers together. You really are not material for working in high stress situations. You're probably going to end up costing people's lives because you're going to end up working in industries like nuclear, military, or working in some sort of government role in the tax office. You should not be anywhere near anything with that kind of responsibility, I'm afraid. If you can't cope with this, I think you're going to be recklessly dangerous for your inability to cope in stressful situations. University of Pennsylvania professors hastily adjusted exam schedules and offered additional support to students reeling from Trump's win, the Daily Pennsylvania reported. Well, I think the university staff should be telling the students, get a grip of yourselves or there's the door. If you don't like it, leave. Goodbye. You're holding the university standards down and back. We do not want you here if you're incapable of doing this yourself. These people are supposed to be adults. And the thing is as well, is if these people can't cope with this, then maybe university students shouldn't be allowed to vote. And also people might find that a controversial point. But if these people are so stressed and they are so overwhelmed with their university studies and with the exams coming up and all the other sort of stuff, then maybe putting the burden of voting onto them and having the pressures of being involved in politics is too much for their young minds to be able to actually deal with. So maybe when you're in university, maybe you should be exempt from voting. Maybe that should be something that could be explored, because that will help them then not have to be so stressed, because they won't be burdened with those worries, will they? And then they can deal with that when they're actually an adult out in the real world. At Georgetown University, McCourt School of Public Policy, a self-care suite for students offered students the chance to play with Legos, doodle with crayons, and munch on milk and cookies in recognition of these stressful times, the Free Press reported. But I think what those students need really is a smack around the side of the face, in my personal opinion, and told to get a grip. That is really what should be happening with these people. Like I say, they're supposed to be becoming the leaders of the future. These people are going to be the ones in charge of factories and offices, and going to be officers, or they're going to be designing buildings or bridges or flying planes or who knows what else. If they can't cope with Donald Trump becoming president, then how can they cope with the stresses of designing a bridge? I'm being serious. Or the pressure of having to deal with a nuclear reactor when it's going potentially critical. They're going to melt these people. They're not going to be able to deal with it. That straight away to me is a red flag that these people are not suitable to be put in any sort of position of authority or responsibility. Very, very dangerous precedent coddling these students. And part of the problem is that the universities are coddling them as well, instead of telling them to get a grip. That is a big part of the problem. Leftist professors at Columbia University and its sister school, Barnard College, which became epicenters of anti-Israel protests last year, also sent emails to students encouraging them to take it Wednesday following the presidential election. Well, that was good England, wasn't it, written down then? I think it was meant to take the day off Wednesday. Anyway, one student told the New York Post that their professor sent out the memo around an hour before Pennsylvania was called for Trump by the decision desk. In one email, Barnard professor Amelia Simone Herbert told her students in the race, space and urban schools class, that she hopes that they are taking care. Why? It's an election. And not only that, like I say, this is the over-feminization of the education system. And this is the problem when you take out responsibility and personal accountability from people and start trying to do this, wrapping everybody up in cotton wool. It's causing these people to have a meltdown that they can't cope with. And we saw this in 2016 when Trump won then. Literally people actually having nervous breakdowns in the street. Highly hilarious, but also very, very worrying for the future stability of our nations. I recognise that processing the results of a national election can be heavy, and having space to breathe and get a bit slower is vital, she wrote as she announced class would be cut short. Well, that's probably more for her than for the students, to be honest with you. That's another part of the problem, is these professors as well I think half of them need a smack around the side of the head. And some of it's subversive. A lot of these professors are highly, highly socialist, to the point where you could actually call them communists. So I think part of that's the problem as well. And this is probably some sort of political protest that they're engaging in against what they perceive to be a fascist autocratic system. So still, she offered to remain in the room for anyone who wants to use it as a workspace or a space to reflect with others. Well, if I was a student there, I'd actually be saying, well, I want to do my full lectures, to be honest with you, because I've paid a goddamn lot of money for it. And so if you think I'm only having half a day or having a day off from it, you've got another thing coming, otherwise I'll see you in court and you can reimburse me the lost money for that day. It's absolutely insane. And I would want a private tutor supplying for by the university to replace that individual as well. Adjunct Professor of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University, Michelle Green, whose bio says she served on the Obama administration's White House Council on Women and Girls, announced she was cancelling class altogether. There we go. What did I literally just say? These people are political activists, and they are engaged in some form of political protest against the incumbent president and his group of people that are going to be taking charge of the country. You can see it a mile off before it's so boring now and so obvious what is happening, to the point of it's predictable. It's like watching a spaghetti western film, after you've already watched 100 of them. You know exactly what's going to happen throughout the film because they're all the same after a certain point. It just gets boring. It really just gets boring. These people are so predictable. They all think that they're all independent and free thinkers, but they're not. They're all bloody carbon copy cutouts of each other. Half of these, that they're bloody, what's the word again? Contrarians. A lot of these people are just contrarians, and that's the problem with them. And they have absolutely, and unfortunately, the ability to discipline people in work has been absolutely scuppered. Now, I'm not saying that bosses should be allowed to just sack people on the spot, but I think when these sorts of things are happening, people should be getting seriously disciplined for that. You know, like these universities are supposed to be businesses, and they're also supposed to be shaping culture of future generations going into work. Well, what culture are these young people learning with this sort of behaviour being allowed to happen? Oh, you don't like the way general elections gone, so you can just have a few days off work and go play with Legos and suck your thumb. Nah, no, that isn't how you deal with it. You tell them to get a grip and get in and do the studying. If they don't like it, there's the door. That's what you teach them. Resilience wheedles out the weak as well, because those of them who can't take it will walk out the door and won't return. Well, goodbye. Thank you. See you later. You are obviously not the right person to go into a high pressure job. That's the end of it. It's that simple. But these universities are seriously failing young people doing this. Not just young people, society in general, as I say, because we're going to end up with doctors, surgeons who are going to end up folding under the pressure and killing patients because they've been taught that they can just pack up and leave whenever it gets too much. You know, surgeons in the middle of performing surgery, he's like, can't do this anymore. See you later. Can't deal with the stress. I'm going to play with some Legos. I'm going to go, I need some milk and cookies. I can't do this anymore. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. These universities need, various governments around the world need to start getting a grip of these universities as well and start pulling funding out of them for encouraging this kind of babying and mollycoddling of these young people. So the current events would make it difficult to concentrate on factorial ANOVA. I don't know what that acronym stands for, I'm afraid. And although I had planned a tentative lecture on modern polling methods and their blind spots, it feels a bit tone deaf to deliver it today, she wrote in her email. Well, no, it wouldn't be tone deaf to deliver it that day. It would actually be a great day to deliver it on, because it's like, all of the research and polling that we've done told us that she was going to win, but actually he won instead. Let's look at this in depth and understand what we can learn from this for future so we can do better at our jobs. These people are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Be good to yourselves. Check in on your friends. Green concluded her message. Well, it should be in by X time. If you're not, get out of the university. Bye-bye. That's what the message should be saying. Get over yourselves, you narcissistic twats. Dartmouth College also offered distraught students a decompression dinner and listening circles to console them after Kamala Harris lost the 2024 presidential election. Well, they're going to have bloody drums out on that as well. Having a drum circle. They're going to start bloody wearing tie-dye t-shirts and all that sort of stuff and having a hugging. Oh, shut up and get a grip. We're literally staring down the barrel of a gun at the moment with World War III and we've got this crap going on. Can you imagine these sorts of people having to go fight against the Russian or Chinese hordes? They'd be crapping the pants. They'd actually have poo in the pants, these people. They wouldn't be able to deal with it. You'd end up having to shoot them for cowardice because they'd be a liability to the rest of the unit, these sorts of people. And I'm not engaging in hyperbole there. I seriously mean it. In a World War situation, you would end up having to shoot people for cowardice in order to keep the rest of the unit moving forwards. Insane. Absolutely insane, these people. The event organised at the Ivy League school encouraged its students to be off the grid the day of the election and to join them at Moosilauke Ravine Lodge for a decompressed dinner on Wednesday evening. Get over yourselves. Bring a book, a craft, a friend to the lodge, it said, according to a schedule obtained by the Daily Caller. Pathetic. These people are pathetic and they are going to expect to be getting into high-paying jobs when they leave university. You know what? I hope future employers just completely blacklist these universities. I really do. I hope major companies start just saying, you know what? You don't want to touch anybody from them universities because you're just going to get a wet blanket of a person who's going to cry about the rights, who's going to be moaning about politics all the time, and he's going to be taking multiple days off the stress. They're just not going to be worth the risk having these people. Back on its main campus, the New Hampshire school also offered Democratic and Republican listening circles. They forbade policy debate or discussion of candidate strategy, but rather it would be a supportive environment where students could share with like-minded peers their hopes, concerns and reflections about our country's direction, the schedule announced. Well, isn't that so kind of nice for those little people? The poor bleating little hearts, how can they cope with not getting their own way for the first time in their life? I bet mummy and daddy never even told them no when they were growing up, did they? And I bet all the teachers always told them that they were super special and here's your most improved award. Yes, you get an award too. Well done, Patronette. You're a good little girl or boy, aren't you? Well done. Congratulations. Everybody's a winner. Shut up. Get over yourself, you narcissist. They also offered an open space for international students to reflect on the election, as well as in a faculty listening circle. Insane. I absolutely would not be able to cope in a university like that because I wouldn't be able to keep your mouth shut. I genuinely would not be able to stop mocking these people. I'd be laughing and laughing and laughing. laughing. And I'd be the one who ended up getting kicked out for some sort of bullying or harassment against these people. And I wouldn't be able to help myself either. And I'd be calling them weak. Weak and pathetic on a daily basis. You are weak. Look at you, you weak people. Pathetic. Additional counselling, a service already offered to students, was also added to help students cope with the nation's decision. On Friday, Dartmouth will also allow Democratic and Republican students to come together for a discuss politics without interrupting each other in a respectful space where people across the political spectrum can share their hopes, concerns and experiences. Well, I'm telling you now, if I was over there, all I'd be turning around to them and saying is, you lot have been a bunch of see you next Tuesdays for the last 4 years, so guess what? You've got absolutely no sympathy for me, and I hope Donald Trump goes in, and I hope he guts the entire system, and I hope he sends a lot of people to prison. I really do. That's all they'd be getting from me. Absolutely zero sympathy. The college will end its post-election events with a first-generation office wellness dinner. Roughly 75% of the study body planned for voting for Harris, according to the Dartmouth, a college publication found in a poll. So at least 25% of those people have got their heads screwed on anyway. Only around 20% of students said they would vote for Trump, who eventually won the race. Well, good for that 1 in 5. They picked the winners. They were the smart ones. That's it. Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, that shows you how too many people at university, doesn't it? You know, 50% of people going to university, insane. Absolutely insane, you know. And that actually says it all there, because only really, it used to be top 10% went to university. So if you've got 50% of the population going to university, that means, like with that, 10% out of that 50% is 20% of that 50. 10% is 20% of the 50%. That makes sense to you. So that perfectly correlates with how many people should be going to university there. That 20% of students voted for Trump, which tells you that the other 80% shouldn't be there anyway. And they're just there purely as part of a business box. Those people are not smart enough to be able to back a winner when they see one, because they've got so much ideology up their backsides that they're incapable of thinking straight or analytically or critically. They just do what the professors tell them to do. They believe all the BS. No analytical thinking whatsoever. 76% of students polled said they believed the country was on the wrong track, according to the collegiate publication. Well, yeah, because these people are rabid socialists who want unironic communism. At Michigan State University, assistant professor Sheila Bora shockingly informed students she was cancelling class entirely to grieve the results. Well, you special professor, aren't you, that you get to grieve the results like that? Well, I tell you now, the vice-chancellor of that university should be sacking her on the spot and saying, do not return. You've been replaced. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. You weak individual. Pathetic. As a queer immigrant woman of colour, like that matters, I cannot in good conscience go on about my day like everything is all right, Bora wrote in a message that quickly went viral after being shared by the X account End Wokeness. But you probably shouldn't be working in higher education anyway if you can't cope with that. You, again, are a great example of a person who is incapable of working in a high-stress environment and taking on the responsibilities of that sort of pressure. But if you're incapable of not injecting your own politics and worldview onto your students, absolutely atrocious and grossly negligent of the university for allowing a person like that near young and impressionable minds. This is a major historical event that we are witnessing, she added. I hope you take the time to take care of yourself. Yeah, take care of yourself by coming to university and learning what you're supposed to learn so you can be a more productive person and be more successful in your future endeavours as a human being. Meanwhile, at Princeton, the university rolled out post-election listening circles to help students cope with the results, offering both virtual and in-person safe spaces from emotional processing. Well, what they're doing there is they're actually teaching the students to be perpetual victims and to actually not be able to cope with stresses that are happening inside them, and that they're constantly going to be venting things and incapable of actually compartmentalising problems in their own minds, and they're just going to be incapable of functioning in any sort of high pressure environment or even a medium pressure environment, to be honest with you, because they're constantly going to have to stop to talk about whatever it is that's bothering them rather than just putting it to the back of their head temporarily, getting on with the work, and then on the break having a moan to the colleagues or whoever it is going on saying, Christ on a bike, you're not going to believe what's happened to me today at work. These people are just going to be constantly freaking out and being incapable of dealing with the most mundane of issues that come up in day-to-day life. We've been hearing about lots of anxiety from students about the election. University spokesperson Jennifer Morrill told the Daily Princetonian, adding that the circle provide a non-judgmental place to share feelings about the election. Well, they might do that, but what they also do as well is teach them that anxiety is actually okay and that you need to feed that anxiety rather than learn to cope with it. This is terrible, terrible thing that they're doing to these young people. It's shocking. The Ivy League institution even hosted an Art Build event through its Environmental Activism Coalition to help community members express their election-related emotions through colouring and creative means. Pathetic and infantilizing of these young people. Shocking, shocking, shocking. Biden consoled the nation on Thursday, 2 days after his VP and former running mate lost the race. Well, I mean, Biden's got a lot to answer for because he's actually contributed to a lot of this these problems and the way that people are thinking of Donald Trump as being actually Hitler. You know, not just him, but like all of these news networks as well. There's one guy who shot his wife and his kids and then himself. I think he was like in Tennessee or somewhere like that because Trump won. These people, they've been driven insane basically from Biden down. You know, they've actually driven half of the US population insane. And it's unforgivable what's been done. And you know what? I hope Trump gives them full retribution. I really do. I hope he goes medieval on all these people and these various government departments that have done this to the American people. And not just the American people, it's bled out into wider Western civilization. You know, it's just shocking what they've done for the last sort of 20 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you, Biden said. A country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country makes. Well, fair play to them. At least this time, they're not going in a complete meltdown like they did in 2016 when Trump won. You know, when, what was it? Hillary Clinton was talking about how the election had been stolen and all blah, blah, blah. And people are actually having a complete and utter freak out. They do seem to be at least accepting that they've actually lost this time. You know, that Trump has actually legitimately won, which that... Fair play, we've got to give credit, at least where credit's due. Losers' consent at least has happened this time around. He congratulated Harris on her historic campaign and invited President-elect Trump to meet with him in the White House. Trump's going to be like, yep, I'm back home again. He expressed his commitment to ensuring a smooth transition to power. Well, that's good. Hopefully he does stick to that as well. Harris formally conceded her campaign on Wednesday with a public speech at her alma mater, Howard University. The emotional vice president admitted this is not what we wanted. Well, clearly not. She wanted to be president. So that's self-evident, isn't it? You know, even without being said. As she took the stage almost 12 hours after the race was officially called for the former president. Harris, however, also vowed to help with a peaceful transfer of power, even as she said she would continue the battle after Trump's dominant victory. While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign, she said. I'm going to leave it at that. That's obviously the whole article. I'll put the article below. I'll put a link below for you, so please do read the article yourself as well. There is a bit more information on there in like various sort of snippet pictures and stuff. So please go on the website yourself, have a look for yourself, make your own mind up. You know, don't just listen to what I say. I mean, those are obviously all my opinions, my point of view. You don't have to agree with me. If you do, fantastic. If you don't, put a comment below. Please explain why you don't. Because I'm not a closed book. I'm definitely open for debate, and I'm definitely open for changing my mind if people's opinions or points of view are strong enough and thought out well enough. You know, so please do put what you think down below, and I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to end the video. If you found that interesting, insightful, useful, any of that other sort of good stuff, please do like, subscribe, and once again, definitely please do put comments below. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.